Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks a lot for coming back. Today we're going to talk about, well, a bug out situation. Given what's going on around the world with, the potential for war, Iran, China, Russia all getting up in arms, I think maybe it's time for us to look at a bug out scenario in which combat is a possibility. I mean, this is not like your average get away from a hurricane or get away from fires. This is we are under attack. People are losing their damn minds, and we're going to need some equipment. We're going to need to survive out in the woods, and we're going to need to defend our campsite. So, with that in mind, we are going to go over my combat effective bug out kit. Hang on a minute, we'll shake it down. Gone to war. Power everywhere has gone down. People are starting to get very hungry because grocery stores are not bringing in enough food to feed everybody. So the solution is to just go to, well, a specific house with a lot of woods around it, where we can actually just hide in those woods while the rest of the group, kids, wives, husbands, whatever, the doctors, the medical people, whoever needs to be stationary in that camp, would be sitting there protected. So our job here, what I'm prepared for, is to go out and to post up on a perimeter in the woods where there's a clearing. And the goal is to, defend the campground from anybody who would intrude. Does that make sense to you? I think it should, right? Yeah. So here's that kit for that purpose. Now understand that I am on a budget, so everything I have here I got super cheap. It's true. No, really. I could not afford to pay for any of this. So everything here that's nice was given to me, and everything that's cheap was a struggle for me to pay for. So this is a good budget shakedown for you, right? So here we go. We're going to start talking about what we have. I start out with the pack. Now this is the standard, what do they call it? The Molly 2 military pack. It's ugly. It is. It's the old Digicam that is just not camouflage, but it's rugged. And I'm going to warn you, though, if you can afford a better pack, get one. This pack by itself is the heaviest pack I've ever held. I mean, it is as heavy, if not heavier, than the older green army rucksacks, the big ones. This pack alone is heavy. I don't have any way to weigh any of this without having problems, so I'm not going to give you a weight, but I'm going to tell you that just sitting like it is, even without the water canteen in it, it's heavy. So if you can avoid that pack, probably avoid it. But if you need something durable and rugged that will hold everything you need for, this is sort of a 72-hour post out, maybe, give or take, 2 to 3 days posting out. So you want to get a pack that's sturdy enough, but you don't need to spend a lot of money because the odds of this really happening are so low. So it seems senseless to me to spend a fortune. But anyway, you get the point. So anyway, starting at this pack, I've got my binoculars on this pack. I don't know where I got these from. I think a yard sale. They're kind of crap, but you know what? Binoculars are nice to have if you're hiding in the woods. Yeah, the rifle scope could do the same thing. It could. You could use the rifle scope as binoculars. But when you're in the woods and you're trying to not protrude into the opening, it's a good idea to not have a rifle barrel sticking out, right? So there's the binoculars. There are a couple other miscellaneous things that you do not see on here. I have a cheap old knife. It's a fixed blade. I'll show it to you. I'll roll in some footage. And it's just... I put it on there, A, because it matches the backpack, and B, because I am a believer, having camped as much as I have, that you cannot have too many knives. The best knives in the world fail when you need them the most. And trust me, that's what's going to happen. These are cheap knives, man. This thing was probably $14 at a flea market. but a blade is a blade when it comes to, certain things. So yeah, I mean, you're not gonna, slice tomatoes with it like a Ginsu knife or something, but it is a good, usable, sharp object made of steel, and that's really all I cared about for that. So moving on, we're looking at the canteens. These canteen. Okay, so the question comes up: why have you chosen these canteens rather than a bladder, like the Camelback or something like that? I I have fought with that back and forth through the years, and I do like the Camelback when I'm not bugging out, when it's a just a hike, a day hike, a couple day hike, something like that, where I can go back home and get food, or I can go back home and refill it. But I have found that when camping, the whole bladder idea, it brings on a different set of problems. Now those are easily surmountable problems, but they are new problems. And the canteen system, using the canteen cup as your, coffee cup slash ramen noodle cup slash whatever else you want, is convenient. And as you see, I keep a piece of aluminum that I just, folded it several times, aluminum foil, and I crammed it down inside there so that you could just stick that bottle in there, and you can't even tell the aluminum foil's there, but it gives you sort of a lid for your cup to help it heat up faster when you're heating it up. So I like to have the 2 quart canteens, and instead of using like a 2 or 3 liter bladder, I just prefer it this way. So you can do your own thing. But the other reason I like these canteens for this scenario is because I have the Army gas mask. Okay, with that gas mask, I can actually plug into that canteen and drink out of it without contaminating myself or the water that's in the canteen. You can't do that with a bladder. I'm sure there are things out there that you can connect to it that you have to keep track of, but this is all self-contained. I literally just plug the canteen into the side of the mask and drink from it. So that to me, is a huge, huge value. Now moving to that mask, again, we're talking about potential war with somebody like Iran. I don't know how much intelligence you guys have read, but I have read quite a bit. I know what they're up to, I know what they're capable of, and I know how high the risk of biological warfare is from a terrorist, a surrogate terrorist standpoint in the U.S. It's actually a lot higher than any of us want to believe, and it sucks. So, yeah, everybody in my family's got a gas mask, and they can all just plug into these quart containers. So that's the advantage, and that's why I like these gas masks. It's the same one I used when I was back in, the Army, and it did the job. It's pretty windy out here. I hope you don't mind the noise. It's a weird winter day here. It's 82 degrees and windy. So anyway, we're going to continue down the utility. If you notice, I have everything on this blanket here laid out, based on its purpose and place. So moving down the utility, we're going to get to, this cheap fixed blade 12-inch knife. I bought this knife at an Army Navy store for about $20, I don't even remember, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and have brutalized it since then. I have used it to chop wood at my house, to split hard oak at my house, batoned it gazillions of times, and it is still standing up. I have faith in this cheap knife. Now, is it a Damascus steel blade with a whatever? No, it's not. It is a cheap piece of crap. But it's a cheap piece of crap that I don't have a lot of money invested into and has been used violently, thrown at trees and used. I mean, this knife has been through every treatment I could give it, and it's still kicking. I wish I could tell you what brand it was. It's not even written on it, but it is just a Chinese turd, and I guess I got lucky. So moving on, rope. Hanks of rope. I have green and black here. Sometimes I do want to bring both, sometimes I don't. I will tell you that when I'm just camping, I don't use the 550 cord. I use clothesline, because you can go to Walmart and you can buy 100 feet of clothesline for like $2. It's, you're going to cut it up when you're using it. You're going to cut it up and use it for different purposes. It's going to get shorter and shorter with every trip. And if my life's not going to depend on it, I'm not going to be spending extra money on those hanks. But for this purpose, I am putting the good stuff in there. So there's my 550 cord. Now next to that little Appalachian Trail or whatever the hell it's called container there, inside that I have gun lubricant, brushes, and tools for cleaning, pistols and long guns. That's something a lot of people forget to put in their kit. You do, if you're running an AR-15 and even most handguns, you're going to want lubricant, buddy. You are going to want to bring along something that you can clean it with and lubricate it with, because you're not going to just, come home and clean guns afterwards. Have it with you. If something goes wrong, you're going to need it, right? Next to that is my perimeter pouch. Now what I have in there, I'm going to show you when we go to FTX. We're trying to do it this weekend, but it might be the following. So I'm gonna record the FTX training where we're gonna actually go out and train in the woods as if this was a real deal, and I'll be living out of this bag as you see everything. I will, this is always subject to change. I'll let you know if something changes in the bag, but as you see it is how it's supposed to go. So the perimeter bag has a neat little tool I created out of mouse traps that allows me to string up a perimeter warning, and it'll fire off a .22 caliber blank if anything or anyone comes into that perimeter. I have tested it out on, dogs, cats, raccoons. I've caught all of them breaking perimeters with this thing. So it works. It doesn't work fantastically. It's not military quality, but it does the job, and you're not going to get to see it until you see it in action. So sorry guys, I love you. Anyway, so we're going to go back up here to Comfort. Don't mind my dog walking through the picture. He's kind of bored. So going up to Comfort, on top here I have the old school Army poncho. Look, there are a lot of better options. There are. And those options cost $150 to $200. This poncho I picked up at a yard sale for about $4. So yeah, that's what I'm using. And let me tell you something. I've been using these ponchos for years. I've made lean-tos, and I've used them for, as a sleep system, and they work great. Mind you, there's, they hold in the sweat. When you're under those and you're sleeping, it's going to be wet, and they are not good for cold weather. They're good for Florida weather. I mean, today, again, it's in the 80s. Tonight, we might see 68, 69 degrees. So I'm probably not going to even have to wrap up in one of those anytime soon, at least for the next few weeks. I do have backup sleep systems that are heavy duty for colder nights. But for most of what we're going to do in Florida, you got to figure we have those cold nights I think we have maybe 4 or 5 cold nights a year. So it's not worth a lot of investment, although it is. On those nights, you're going to want something like that. So moving on. All right, so I know this is not the most fun way of doing this, but it's going to have to work. Underneath that, I have my whoopee. Doesn't everybody love the whoopee? God, I've had so much fun with these whoopies. I don't know if you've ever experienced a whoopee, but you can use it for a lot of things too, and that's kind of the reason I went with these two instead of some of my small camping sleeping bags. These are universal, because with a sleeping bag, you can't make a tent and a blanket, or a sleep system. You can't use it for multiple purposes. You can't make a raft out of a regular sleeping bag. Out of my poncho and whoopee set, I can do a lot of things. It's very universal. So that's why I carry that. So I tuck the whoopee into that and shove it into there, and I'll show you me loading it as we're going here. So the small green package beneath that are my blow-up pillows, my inflatable pillows. Yeah, with my condition, I need inflatable pillows. I need pillows. I can't sleep without them. Because I have several fractured vertebrae in my neck, and I have a colostomy bag hanging from my belly, so it makes it impossible for me to lay like normal people do. So the whoopee is my deal. Moving on, beneath that I have my windbreaker. It's a very comfortable something Robbins, I can't remember the name brand right now. I'll probably try and roll that in for you. It is awesome. It's old. It has taken a beating, but it's very packable. It fits entirely into this green pouch and doesn't take up a lot of room, and it doesn't weigh much at all. So I keep that windbreaker. Trust me, man, the funny thing about this time of year is when it starts out at 85 degrees at noon, and as soon as the sun drops, it drops down to 65, sometimes 50, sometimes 40 overnight, and then goes right back up to 85. you can't. I lived up north, and I've operated up north. I know that you can have winter days where you can just put on a lot of clothes and you'll make it through a week. As far as like these FTX trips. But down here, you can't put on a lot of clothes during the day. You will sweat to death. And then at night, you'll be frozen. So you have to play a game. You have to bring something that'll protect you. So there you go. I use this jacket, when I'm sitting around the fire having my coffee or whatever. It kind of keeps the warmth in as much as it can without weighing a lot. So I like this thing. The t-shirt under there, I don't know, I inherited that. I think my brother or somebody gave it to me. It's ugly, but it's a good idea, I think, if you're going to be camping at night in this situation where stealth is, the important part. Yeah, sure, a camouflage t-shirt to put on at the end of the day when you're, getting out of your warrior gear, something that's comfortable to sleep in. Socks and underwear, I mean, that seems kind of obvious, right? Got my little dry bag there. It's a turd, but it's it's a cheap one. It's Ozark Trail, but it does work mostly. It works. I don't know. I've never had a nice one. I don't know how well they work, but I can tell you that if I submerge this one, it ain't gonna hold the water out. That's for sure. But it does a pretty decent job. So that's it for my comfort items, my real comfort items. Except for this. This Gatorade bottle has two purposes. Number one, coffee. Coffee. Sorry, it is full of coffee right now because I'm preparing for the weekend's trip. Yeah, I brew my coffee before I go, put it in the bottle, and in the morning when I wake up, all I have to do is throw it into my canteen cup, heat it up, and enjoy a nice cup of coffee. If you don't, you're missing out. Just saying. I like to bring some of the instant coffee packs too for during the week if I get stuck there for any amount of time. But again, in this particular situation, this works because I'll get there at night and set up overnight and then just want my coffee first thing in the morning. So what happens the rest of the week is different. So yeah, there's your coffee. I got little snacks here. I got snacks. Obviously, the snacks that'll go on the outside of the bag, and I'll show you as I pack them, is, I've got my Pop-Tarts, and I've got my little lemon bars. These are just little snacks for if I start really feeling hungry and I can't, I'm starting to get dizzy and my blood sugar starts to drop, I have these things. Next to those are ramen noodles. Cheap. Cheap food. Easy to prepare in your canteen cup so you can have a warm meal. It's good to have a warm meal before bed. It warms you up so that it'll carry you through the night, especially something like that's got a lot of carbohydrates, something that's going to help you burn energy all night. You're going to need that. So I like that. Now this weird looking pouch above that's jackfruit. I don't know if you're familiar with jackfruit. It's actually a fruit, but it tastes like pulled pork. It tastes amazing. It keeps forever. And again, I can put it in my canteen cup and heat it up. And it's amazing. So I have a lot of food, but I'm a big guy. And I'm, not super active. But I do need energy for all of my issues. So, I use all those. I have one of these little, the Coleman forks. It's cheap stuff, but it's lightweight. And it works well enough to get me through, right? Now this is probably overkill, but this is a bag of paper towels. You'd be amazed how often I've said, man, I wish I had a bag of paper towels right now. No, really, it's true. There have been a lot of times when my hands got into something nasty and I didn't want to get, whatever rag I was bringing with me, nasty, and I would have killed for paper towels. They're good for when you're cleaning your weapons. It helps to have something like that to tear apart and use to clean your weapons. It's good for when you finish your meal or whatever. There's a lot of times when you're out there that a paper towel is a godsend. I mean, you're thankful that you bring them when you have them. So it's worth the size and weight. Now, moving over, because we're talking about cooking, I have this, if you've watched any of my videos, you know my system, right? You know what I use. I use these 1 pound containers, the propane, because I can refill them on my larger propane containers. So I can, as I use these up, I can refill them so I don't have to keep buying new containers, because half of the price when you're buying containers is the metal. So it's a lot cheaper for me to fill one big gas can and then use it to keep filling the little ones than it is to keep buying little ones. And I know everybody has these stoves and they love them, but if you've seen my method, it's spill proof. And to me, that's really huge. When you are limited with what food you can carry, not spilling it is awesome. So my method with this works better than any stove that I've ever used or ever seen used. And I've seen some pretty talented stove users who have absolutely spilled it all over the ground because, anything can happen. My system works better for me. Whatever you like, you like. You see the torch there. That little piece of wood, that's fat wood. And I know it seems silly to bring it with you when you can probably find it in the woods. But dude, Florida is a wet place. I mean, it rains here a lot. And if you can shave off some of that fat wood and put it down underneath the fire pile, it will hold flame long enough to dry out whatever small wood you've put on top of it, and then you can go up that chain. So fat wood, to me, for a Florida environment, for the green swamp environment, is not just helpful, it's necessary. And of course, I always keep a cigarette lighter or two. Cigarette lighters are very important to me. The waterproof matches, yeah, I'm not fond of them, but they've worked for me. So it doesn't weigh much. It's worth cramming it in there. Underneath that are my bio wipes. That's not necessary either, especially for 72 hours, but it feels good. And in my particular situation where I have a colostomy that, could rupture or could get torn off of my body, and I'll have, poo everywhere, being able to clean that up is the difference between wanting to live and not wanting to live. Nobody wants their own feces all down their belly and their pants and everything. Nobody wants that. I hope. If they do, they're weird. So on that note, directly under that, I have my colostomy supplies in a Ziploc. Those colostomy supplies, that's enough to get me through about 3 days, maybe 4. Plus what I have on now. So if I go out wearing a new set, that'll get me through 3 to 4 days, and then I can change it and get me through another 3 to 4 days. So it's enough. I have other packs that have larger quantities in case I'm out for a longer time, and for my general bug out, I have a bunch of them in there. That's probably half my weight because, that's irreplaceable. You can't wash it, you can't clean it, it is trash when you use it. So it's useless otherwise. I have a small medical kit, boo-boo kit, owie kit, I have the scissors I need for my colostomy sets. Yes, I need to use the scissors to make things work, so that's in there. I have medical tape that I throw in the bag because it comes in handy a lot of times, right? So that's the majority of the medical stuff that goes into this kit. Now I have a blowout kit that I'll show you that I carry. I have, systems built into my battle vest. I have all these other things that back it up and do more. So these are all good things to have, but I also like to keep this small kit in my bag for, owies. My grooming, basically, we'll call it, brushing my teeth. I have some chapstick. I have, some toilet paper that comes in there. It's, could come in handy. It's light. It's what comes in the MREs. And I figured, why not throw it in there? It doesn't weigh anything, doesn't take up any space. So there you go. There's so I can get that stuff done. Notice I have my toothbrush cut in half to save space. It's not a big deal. Don't worry, it won't hurt it. Next to that, I have a small utility pouch. It's a webbed pouch that I put things in, like my spare batteries, my spare earplugs, because I need earplugs to sleep. And assuming there's somebody guarding me, I don't mind putting them in. Now understand, these earplugs, I don't know if you've ever used them, but you can talk to each other with them in. It's not like they block out the whole world. They just soften some of the nighttime noises that would keep me awake. So they're helpful. Plus, it's good to have them in a combat scenario in case things get loud. You know what? Things get loud in combat, don't they? Yeah, they do. So yeah, the tape, the hand cleaner, hand cleaner is one of the greatest things because you're gonna want it to clean your hands. Nobody wants filthy hands. And it's great for starting fires. Man, if you can't get a fire started, pour some of that stuff on some, some torn up dry grass and have at it. Watch that thing blow into flames. So that's important to me. Moving down, the mosquito wipes. This little pile here, this is stuff I put in my pocket, not in my kit. Okay, so when it's time to go, those are the things that I cram down into my pants and into my different cargo pockets. so that I have them with me in case I have to dump everything else and run like hell. Um, that's my last gasp kind of a thing. Little compass, whistle, signaling mirror, bug spray. That's about it. That and what I wear on my first line. I'm gonna do, I think, a separate video. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. So I also have a walking stick because I have walking problems. I have bad legs. I don't get far at all. So I have my little walking stick. It folds down and can be attached to my bag, but generally if I'm gonna grab all of this and run, that walking stick's gonna be at hand so I can help myself push through some of my falls, help me get up and all that. So I think that's about it for that. Now if you look up, you will see that I have my battle vest, which is my second line, and like I said, I have my third line on me. And I think we're going to do that in a different video, because I think this is enough. I ran this out long enough, didn't I? All right, guys. I appreciate, any input you guys have. If you think I'm wrong about anything, throw it at me. If you think I'm right, congratulate me. If you think I'm an idiot, shush. I don't want to hear it. All right, man. Thanks a lot, people. I love you. See ya.